Hey everyone, this lesson is on how to play lines 15, 16, and 17 in your book. And while that looks like 3 lines, it's actually only 2 lines, so this shouldn't take us too terribly long. As always, when there is a new idea in our book, they make sure that they show it to us inside a shaded box, this sort of orange-colored shaded box. So the new idea they're teaching us now is a half note. We'd already learned how to play quarter notes. Quarter notes, remember these notes here, that are black in the middle. Some of you have quarter notes that might be facing the other direction, like this. And they're the same thing. It's just that when notes are lower in the staff, they usually point up, and when notes are higher in the staff, they usually point down. So depending on your instrument, yours might point one way or the other. It doesn't make much difference. It doesn't make any difference as far as what the note is worth. So our half notes, sometimes right side up, sometimes upside down, are hollow notes that last exactly 2 beats. While the quarter note was a sound that was on the beat and lasted 1 beat, this is a long sound that lasts 2 beats. 1 and 2 and. One note that lasts exactly that long. We also then have to know what a half rest looks like. A half rest sits on top of this line, where a whole rest hangs beneath this line of the staff. So we know that in lines 15, 16, and 17, all of them are on top of a line. So we know that they're all going to be half rests. That's exactly 2 beats of silence. Another way we could write that would be this. So a half rest is equal to 2 beats of silence, 2 quarter rests. So let's look first at line number 15. So we see we've got a half note, a pair of quarter notes, a half note, a half rest, a half note, pair of quarter notes, half note, a half rest, 4 quarter notes, and then a half note. Now we know that the half note lasts for 2 beats. It lasts exactly as long as 1 and 2 and then these quarter notes happen on beat 3 and beat 4. This half note 1 and 2 and then we have 3 and 4 and of rest. And then we have a half note that lasts for 1 and 2 and then we have quarter notes that are 3 and 4, then 1 and 2 and. We've got then 2 beats of rest. We're not going to say the beats of rest though. And then we have 4 quarter notes. Each one lasts for a full beat. And then 1 and 2 and another half note. And then 2 beats of silence. So I'm going to put on a metronome on my ear, and when I count this in time, it would sound like this. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 3, 4, 1. 1, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And repeat. 1, 3, 4, 1. 1, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And stop. You may have seen this before when you were in elementary school, and they may have called it a half note, or they might have called it a ta or a tu. There's different names that elementary school teachers sometimes give to these things. The important thing we need to know is it's one sound that lasts 2 beats. If you had a teacher that told you it was called a ta, they asked you to pulse that ah sound so that you could feel both beats. But when we're playing it on an instrument, we don't want to hear both pulses. We just want to have a long note that lasts through both of those pulses. So instead of thinking ta, 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 we want to think tu, ta, ta, tu, and then the rest comes up. All right, now I told you that there's 3 lines in this video, but really it's only 2, and here's why. I want you to, for a moment, take a look at the rhythm that you see in line 16. And by rhythm, I just mean look at the shapes of the notes, the patterns of half notes and quarter notes. And then I want you to compare what you see as far as those note shapes go with what you see in line 15. Are you seeing a correlation? By now it should be obvious. They have the exact same rhythm, the exact same pattern of quarter notes and half notes between those two lines. The only difference now is that in line 16, we have to be able to play the correct pitches on our instrument. So what I want you to do now is take a moment to name all of the notes in line 16 to yourself. If you play the trumpet or the clarinet, it starts on C. If you play the flute or the trombone or the tuba or a percussion instrument, it starts on B flat. And now that you've named them, I'd like you to play it along with me. You might not get it right the first time, and you might need to go back and play it again or practice it over and over to get it right. The hardest part for you is probably going to be measure number 5 here. G, F, E, D, C, Sol, Fa, Mi, Re, Do, F, E flat, D, C, B flat, because our fingers have to move the most. Here I go. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, play. And repeat. And stop. Now, go back and repeat as many times as you need to. I'll also post this on Practice First, so you can practice along with Practice First, where it'll measure to make sure that you're playing the right notes. Because rhythm is so important, I highly recommend that when you use Practice First, you use it with the metronome turned on or the backing track turned on, so that you're forced to play it in time rather than having it try and follow you. Also, the more mistakes you make as far as notes go, the harder it is to have it follow you. Even if you are playing with steady time, wrong notes really confuse Practice First. All right, let's move on to line 17. Now, line 17, this is one of my favorite lines in the book, because every book that I've ever used has Hot Cross Buns somewhere in it. It's often the very first real song we get to play, although in this book we got to play a real song in line 14 when we did Mary Had a Little Lamb. Line 17 uses the half notes that we just learned, and it uses just 3 notes from our first notes page: Mi, Re, and Do. E, D, C if you play clarinet or trumpet, or D, C, and B flat if you play the other instruments. First, let's look at the counting. I know that this first note happens on beat 1 because it's the beginning of the bar and it lasts for 1 and 2 and, which means this note happens on beat 3 and it lasts for 3 and 4 and. This note happens on beat 1 because we're in a new measure and it lasts for 1 and 2 and. Then we have a rest that lasts for 3 and 4 and. This half note is on beat 1, it lasts for 1 and 2 and. This half note is on beat 3 and it lasts for 3 and 4 and. This half note is on beat 1 and it lasts for 1 and 2 and. Then we have a rest for 3 and 4 and. And then here, counting is very easy when we have quarter notes because everyone happens on a beat. And when we get back to the end again, we've got 1 and 2 and, 3 and 4 and, 1 and 2 and then we rest for 3 and 4 and. So if I were to count the whole thing in time, it would sound like this. 1, 2, here I go. 1, 3, 1, rest. 1, 3, 1, rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, rest. Now, many of you may have already played hot cross buns when you did recorders in elementary school. And in fact, if you play the clarinet, the fingerings that you used to play hot cross buns on the recorder when you played BAG are the exact same fingers you'll use to play hot cross buns on the clarinet, but the notes are now EDC with those same fingerings. Let's now play hot cross buns all together. And again, you can repeat this as many times as you need to, replay this video as many times as you need to, and I will post this on Practice First for you as well in the Music First classroom. Here we go. One, two, 1, 2, ready, play. Now, notice that when I play it, the half notes are all smooth and connected to each other. Doo, doo, doo. We want to make sure the air keeps moving and our tongue just flips up into that stream of air to start the new note by touching the top of our mouth if we play a flute, clarinet, a flute, a trumpet, a trombone, or a tuba, or by touching the tip of the reed if we play the clarinet. What we don't want to do is huff and puff. Hoo, hoo, hoo. That makes for some poor beginnings to the notes, but also we don't end up with a real half note, a 2 beats worth of sound. We end up with 1 beat of sound and then a gap where we took a breath in between those notes. So keep your air moving, doo, 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 and just use your tongue to interrupt the air for just a moment to start the new sound. Practice this as much as you feel like you need to. Practice with Practice First. Have a good time playing, and thanks for stopping by.